Thank you. Yay. All right, so we're gonna flow right into the workshop. I know that it is a Wednesday evening. People got places to be, things to do. So I appreciate being here tonight. Um, we are gonna start with a slideshow. So let me pin. Okay. All right, y'all. No, no, this is not. All right, I'm gonna mute some folks. We're gonna have plenty of time for Q&A. But if throughout the evening something pops up, you're welcome to type in the chat, and then I'll be taking time to review before we go into the next sections. This evening, we're gonna be moving through plant medicine, plant cesters. We're going to be talking about different bodies of water. We're going to be talking about the cultural context of spiritual baths, how to do and how to practice and make a spiritual bath. And we're also going to be talking about optimal days of the week for particular energies that you're wanting to work with or call in. So we got a lot to cover. We're going to do our best to keep it to an hour and a half, but we'll see what happens. Okay. So, if you don't mind going back to that first one, Dolores, please. My documents. Okay. Thank you. So, this evening we're connecting for Waters of Remembrance, hierbas caribeñas para baños espirituales, aka Caribbean herbs for spiritual baths. This evening we'll be covering herbs for clearing and cleansing, as well as sweetening herbs. And as always, we are reaching back to our ancestors' practices through the plants and through embodied practice. This workshop is about warrior medicine and the remembrance of how powerful these ancestral practices truly are. During these trying times, our ancestors, our Egun, dug their heels even more deeply into their spiritual practices and communicated with Mother Earth, listening for her medicine and her protection. You can move to the next slide, please. So, a little bit about me. My name is Lindsay Ayala Hinalji. I am the founder of Yabisi. Yabisi means trees in Taino. And like a tree, we have four branches that extend to create our centro. The first being our botanica, which is comprised of remedios inspired by Caribbean practices and plant medicines. Our second branch is where we have events and ceremonies where we offer remembrance activations such as this one, as well as spiritual and ceremonial gatherings. Our third branch is our ecosystem of practitioners, where you'll find a growing directory of vetted integral practitioners, those who offer everything from one-on-one sessions to group sessions to bookings to healing ceremonies, etc. And then, of course, our fourth branch is our School of Remembrance, which is a year-long training created for practitioners and emerging healers and practitioners who are looking to integrate diasporic technologies and rituals into their practices. I am a second generation Nuyorican, born and raised in the Bronx, New York. My family comes from Aguadilla and the streets of Santurce. I am an espiritista, a curandera, a writer, an educator, and a seventh generation botanica owner. I am the first generation since my great grandmother to actively pick these practices back up in this way and adding a bit of my modern twist to it. I found myself drawn to plant medicines after working on a cannabis farm at 21. I feel like many folks are more familiar with me from my work in cannabis and psychedelics work. Cannabis was really the first plant to speak to me. And through a series of I think, really faded events and spirit-led events. I really decided to dive deep into plant medicine work. I began to study clinical herbalism and spiritual herbalism. And it was along this journey where I found that Caribbean and diasporic practices and herbs were really not easily found for me to learn from, to learn about. um, it really became difficult for me to feel authentically and deeply connected to a lot of the practices and teachings that I was learning. And, I wanted to find medicines and rituals that were from my motherland, my homeland, from my home. And when I did find those things, it was far and few. Oftentimes, they needed translations, or these texts and classes were led by folks who are not from these lineages. And so it really lit a fire under my ass to connect with my home base, to connect with the island, to connect with the medicine. And for the last 15 plus years, I've been traveling back and forth to Puerto Rico to be with the land, to visit the ancestral cities, my ancestral cities, to bathe in the waters, the oceans, the rivers, to work the land. I spent time building an earth ship, working on coffee farms, hiking high hills to meet jibaros who taught me how to work the vetiver plant properly. I got to meet espiritistas who taught me how to properly divine with water and how to do limpiezas with river water and just a bundle of herbs. And of course, the folks who taught me what the plants are really used for, what the mango leaves are really used for, what ruda is really used for. It's really been a deep cycle and experience of remembrance that it's been my honor to dedicate much of my life and my work to making these practices more accessible to those of us from the diaspora, those of us who feel like they're from aquí y allá, and those of us who feel like there is so much mystery and controversy around our ancestors' practices, but yet you really still feel the call. And so today's class is for the ones who are ready to remember during a time where we are experiencing the erosion of so many cultures around us, and where we find ourselves in the midst of a world war, really a spiritual war. We are gathering to remember and to sharpen our tools. This class is for the warriors who are ready to root in their spiritual practice and reconnect to Mother Earth's medicine. We can stay on this slide. We're going to go into a short grounding meditation. So I invite you to sit in a comfortable position. If it feels good for you to close your eyes, I invite you to do that as well. So closing your eyes and allowing your spine to be upright, not rigid, but soft and supported. Gently closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. Taking a deep inhale through your nose and slowly exhaling through your mouth. Again, taking a deep inhale and exhale. As you breathe, allow your body to begin to arrive. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the earth, whether that is through your feet, at the base of your seat, or your back. As you exhale, let your shoulders soften. Unclench your jaw, relaxing the space behind your eyes. Now bring your awareness down into your feet. down to the soles of your feet where your body meets the earth. Begin to imagine that from the soles of your feet, roots begin to grow. Slowly extending downwards, moving through the floor, through the foundation of your building or home, moving down into the soft soil beneath you. And allow these roots to move at their own pace, whether that's with your heartbeat or your exhales. Allow them to find their way through layers of earth, stone, and water. Breathing and letting them go deeper and deeper until they reach rich, fertile soil. And with each inhale, imagine that you are drawing nourishment up from these roots. Cool, steady, supportive energy rising from the earth. And as you inhale, this energy moves up into your feet, into your legs, into your body. And with each exhale, release anything that you no longer need. Tension, distraction, energy that is not yours. Let it move down through the roots and back into earth to be composted. Inhaling and exhaling. Remembering that you are supported, you are held, you are rooted. Now begin to bring awareness back to your breath again. Notice the rhythm of your inhale and your exhale. Feeling your body more present now. More anchored. Gently wiggling your fingers and your toes. Dropping your shoulders. And when you're ready, you can begin to slowly open your eyes and arrive back into the space. Welcome back. Okay, let's start with the next slide, please. We're going to go into herbs for energy clearing. The first herb that we'll be talking about is the classic Rue, aka Ruda, aka Arruda. And as I mentioned earlier, My background is in clinical herbalism, followed by spiritual herbalism. So we're going to start with the clinical aspect of these plants, the clinical expression of these plants, because we will find that many of its energetics, many of its attributes really do work in both that physical sense and express in a similar way in a spiritual sense. So we will start with the physical expression of Ruda. This is an amazing plant for nervous system support. It has a really potent effect on the nervous system. It helps us to release tension. It helps us to clear mental fog, and it interrupts cycles of overwhelm. If you've ever interacted with this plant, even just squeezing the leaves and like smelling its essence, smelling its oils really just helps you to feel like, ooh, I feel clear again. While it's not a sedative in the same way that maybe vetiver is, it works by cutting through energetic congestion. It brings clarity and alertness where there has been heaviness or confusion. It's especially supported for those feeling physically or emotionally burdened. So if you're nearing on burnout, Ruda is an amazing plant to call in to support you. It is also an anti-inflammatory. Rue contains compounds that help to reduce inflammation, helps to to ease pain, particularly in the cases of muscle tension, spasms, or joint discomfort. Traditionally used in small and careful doses, it's been applied topically or in baths to release spiritual stagnation and to promote circulation. It's really amazing for skin healing properties. It has antimicrobial and antifungal properties that can support skin conditions when used properly and with care. It has often been used for washing wounds, infections, or skin irritations. It does have a high potency for photosensitivity. So if you are using ruda, whether it's in a spray or you're like using it as a barrida, it might be wise to not go out in the sun immediately after. You might have we call it like splashes, like manchas on your skin from where the roux has like been on your body. So if you're going to be using roux, it's advised to use it indoors. I don't have like a timeline if it's like an hour or 2 hours, but if you're going to use it at night, go to sleep and then you'll be good in the morning. It is an amazing plant for circulatory support. Rue stimulates circulation that helps to move stagnant blood and stagnant energy through the body. It's historically been used to support menstrual flow, to relieve cramping, as well as to literally move what feels stuck in our bodies, both physically and spiritually. I will move on to its herbal actions. This is a nervine, stimulating and clearing. Rue acts as a stimulating nervine rather than a calming nervine. It sharpens awareness and helps to clear mental fog and energetic congestion. It's really helpful when your nervous system feels overwhelmed, where you're feeling mentally scattered or clouded, like mental fogginess. It's an antispasmodic. It helps to relieve spasms in the muscles and in the digestive system, traditionally used for cramping, especially for menstrual pain or abdominal tension. It's an amenagogue. It's been used again. I'm talking about the womb space. So it's helpful to stimulate menstrual flow and to regulate cycles. It works by increasing circulation in the pelvic region. And that is whether you're drinking it as a light tea, if you're using it for yoni steams, it's going to be helpful in the same way. Energetically, I want to say that it helps to move blocks energy in the womb space, clearing stagnation and restoring flow. It is an anti-inflammatory and an analgesic. Rue reduces inflammation and provides a mild pain relief when used appropriately. often applied as an oil or in baths to release and to reduce muscle pain, joint pain, etc. My grandma is a person who has osteoporosis, so she would take baths, sort of like steeping teas, like steeping rue in a hot bath to help like relieve tension in her body. So if you're a person who has joint issues or have loved ones with arthritis or moving through that, it's a really great way to sit with that plant. It is a protective bitter. This is a deeply bitter plant. If you're having a tea, I'm always like, give it a light steep. Um, in herbalism, that signals that when a plant is very bitter, it has an ability to clear, protect, and to strengthen our boundaries. Bitters stimulate digestion and also fortify energetic resilience. Spiritually, rue is a plant of protection, of clearing, of boundary setting. It doesn't gently soothe, it removes, it disrupts, and it protects. It teaches discernment. It teaches that not everything is meant to stay or linger. It's been used across cultures as a guardian plant, whether it's hung in doorways, folks have it at the entrance of their homes, whether it's outside or inside. Sometimes folks wear it in mojo bags or just carry it on their body. It's worked with in ritual to ward off harm, jealousy, bad intentions from others, or psychic intrusion. When we're working with Rue, there is often a feeling of lightness after we're feeling heavy. It helps us to feel as if a veil's been lifted from our eyes, as if things have really been cleared. Spiritually, Rue tells us that we do not have to carry what is not yours. In Caribbean spirituality, or in Afro-Indigenous and Espiritismo traditions, Ruda is one of the most essential plants in our toolkit. We use it for spiritual cleansings, whether it's for limpiezas like a barrida or for spiritual baths. It's used for removing mal de ojo, the evil eye. We use it for protection against envy, gossip, or spiritual attack. It's a clearing, it helps us to clear dense or stagnant energy from the body and home. Excuse me. Growing up, not my parents, but my elders, my grandparents, my great aunts, um, many of them had ruda at their door or like very close by where people were entering their homes. And they would always say that this plant absorbs any bad energy coming into the house. And once the leaves start getting yellow, even if you're watering it, if it's getting in the light, it's showing us that it's absorbing the energy, it's doing the work for us. So again, if you don't have a garden in front of your house, it's all good. You can have a little plant or even hanging it dry, having it nearby. We have it in our studio space, in our botanica to help clear the energy, to help maintain the energy of your space without calling in others. As I mentioned before, ruda is commonly used in bitter baths, clearing baths, often combined with other protective herbs like basil, which we talked about in our last class, rosemary, and sage. You can use it, as I mentioned, to pass over the body as a barrida limpia, steeped into spiritual baths, or placed at our front doors. We consider this the first line of defense, especially for those of us who are doing spiritual work, who work in service of others, who are constantly, maybe I want to say not constantly, but for those who are empathic and maybe feel very deeply or, have a tendency to absorb the energy of others, emotions of others. If you're a caregiver, person holding space for others, this is a really beautiful plant to, again, keep in your toolkit to help protect your energy. Dolores, can we please move to the next slide? Thank you. I didn't mention this in my intro, but I'm going to be talking about the perspective of Candomblé, which is an Afro-Brazilian African traditional religion, as well as Lukumi. It's two practices. Lukumi is one that I grew up with. Candomblé is a practice that I'm currently immersed in and walking the path of. So you'll hear me interchangeably talking about these two practices. So I'm going to start with, through the aspect of Candomblé, Ruda is very connected to the Orisha Eshu. He is the guardian of the crossroads of communication and of spiritual boundaries. Eshu governs movement between worlds, protection at the threshold, and the clearing of obstacles and distortions. Ru carries the same force as clearing the roads of interference, clearing blockages. It protects us against misalignment and deception. So it helps us with our, oh my gosh, discernment. Almost lost that word. And it strengthens our spiritual boundaries. Like the Orisha Eshu, if you're familiar, Ru is not gentle always. It is more so precise. It is necessary in moments, and it is deeply protective. Both Ru and Eshu carry the medicine of protection, boundary setting, clearing obstacles, and restoring right relationship. Ru reminds us that healing is not only about softening, sometimes healing looks like removing, protecting, and standing firmly in one's space. Move on to the next slide, please. Next, we're going to talk about mango. This plant has been showing up around so much. I had to pull her in because these trees, I live in Brazil now, so these trees have been on all my walks lately. I don't know. She's talking, so we're going to talk about her today. um, Again, starting with the physical expression, this is a wonderful plant. The leaves are a wonderful plant for supporting blood sugar balance. They help us to regulate blood sugar levels by improving insulin production and glucose distribution. It's traditionally used in teas for mild diabetes support. Maybe someone working through type 2 diabetes. This could be a wonderful ally for your herbal cabinet. It is rich in antioxidants. The leaves are high in polyphenols and flavonoids, which help to protect the body from stress, inflammation, and cellular damage. It's helpful for our respiratory health. Mango leaf tea is often used to soothe your coughs. If you're a person who has asthma, it helps us with opening our respiratory tubes, helps to clear mucus and to help open the airways. It is what we call an expectorant, helps us to get the mucus up and out. It is also used as a digestive and cardiovascular support. The leaves aid in digestion, supporting healthy cholesterol levels, and help to relax blood vessels, promoting better circulation and heart health. Its herbal actions. It's an antioxidant, meaning that it protects ourselves from stress and free radical damage and helps us to rejuvenate our body. It's an anti-inflammatory. It helps to reduce internal inflammation, particularly in the respiratory and digestive systems. It's a hypoglycemic, helping to regulate blood sugar levels and improve insulin sensitivity. It is an antimicrobial, meaning that it inhibits bacterial growth and supports immune defense. It's very useful for mild infections, and some folks, a lot of old heads that I've learned herbs from will use the tea as a mouth rinse to help with oral health and oral care. I thought was really interesting. As I mentioned before, it's an expectorant and antitussive, meaning that it clears mucus, it soothes your cough, or if you're a person, again, moving through asthma or having bronchitis, it's going to help to really soothe that energy in your respiratory system. It's an astringent, meaning that it tones and tightens tissues. It's a cardiotonic, meaning that it supports our heart health, helps to relax blood vessels and improve circulation. It's a digestive tonic, meaning that it calms our stomach upset, stimulates appetite, and eases bloating and indigestion. She does a lot. This plant is amazing. On a spiritual level, this is a plant of purification and protection. Mango leaves are used to cleanse spaces and to ward off negativity. In Caribbean and South American spiritual traditions, fresh mango leaves are often added to spiritual baths, to floor washes, for smoke cleanses, or to remove heavy or stagnant energies. Their vibrant green essence is said to call in light and vitality, restoring balance after conflict, after illness, or after emotional heaviness. The leaves, quite literally, act as a spiritual broom, sweeping out low vibrations and refreshing our energy field. This is also a plant of prosperity, fertility, and abundance. Because mango trees produce so generously, their leaves symbolize fertility, wealth, and sweetness in life. Placing mango leaves at your ancestral altar or at the doorway to your home at a threshold, it invites prosperity, success, and good fortune into those spaces. In many Afro-Indigenous and in Hindu lineages, mango leaves are hung at the doorways during festivals and ceremonies to welcome in blessings and abundance into the home. This plant connects us to our ancestors and to lineage. In ancestral work, mango leaves are sometimes used to honor elders and those who have transitioned. Offering mango leaves in water or at the base of a tree can serve as a symbol of gratitude and as remembrance. The mango tree, with its deep roots, show us a representation of long life. And in many traditions, this tree is seen as a bridge between generations. It helps us to carry messages between the living realm and the spirit world. In Puerto Rico, especially, you'll find a lot of offerings of fruits and candles and sweets left at the foot of mango trees. Again, treating them as this bridge, as this doorway from the spirit world into our physical world. This tree is really teaching us continuity, how our lineage continues to bear fruit through us. Mango leaves bring spiritual cooling and emotional healing. They help us to settle fiery emotions like anger or jealousy or resentment. Those sorts of emotions that really bubble up. You can maybe feel it in your head, feel it in your chest, feel it in your belly. It's going to help us to soothe those feelings. Whether it's used in a bath or as a tea, they're used to cool the spirit after heated interactions or intense spiritual work. In my personal experience, after doing intense spiritual work, like whether it was a diasporic or clearing for someone, we're usually cleansing ourselves with these mango leaves to call in that coolness and to sort of, close that space, that container out. Energetically, they can bring down inner heat, whether that looks like pride or frustration or resentment. The leaves help to ground us back into patience and compassion. Thank you. Um, the Orisha that this plant is most closely connected to is Ochosi, the hunter of the forest. Ochosi represents abundance, intuition, and wisdom of nature. He is the divine hunter, not only for food, but for truth, for knowledge, and for spiritual sustenance. His domain is the green, breathing world, the wild places where humans and spirits meet through plants and animals and the unseen. Ochosi embodies focus, precision, and balance. He moves silently through the forests, guided by instinct and attunement to the natural world, deeply listening, feeling deeply guided by intuition. He teaches us to listen to the earth, to observe before acting, and to take only what we need, nothing more. These are lessons of ecological harmony and spiritual restraint. In many lineages, Ochosi is also a provider, ensuring that his people, his community are fed materially, emotionally, as well as spiritually. His ashe brings abundance, creative flow, and right relationship with the living world. And before we move to the next slide, I want to talk about the mango tree as the sweetness, as the tree of sweetness and of plenty. The mango tree really mirrors Ochosi's energy beautifully, I believe. Um, it's a generous and life-giving tree offering fruit, offering shade, offering medicine and sustenance to all beings, whether you are a human, a bird, or animals alike. Spiritually, the mango tree is seen as a symbol of nourishment, of fertility and prosperity. This is a tree that continues to give without scarcity. It represents the sweet rewards of patience, of harmony, and of balance, all virtues that Ochos carries. Its leaves, in particular, carry the energy of protection and renewal and vitality, again, used to bless thresholds, to cleanse spiritual residue, and to call in abundance. In the Caribbean, as well as in Brazil, mango leaves are again hung at doorways, placed on altars, used in spiritual baths to attract blessings and to align one's home, whether that is your physical home or your body, your home. Helps us to align us with the lushness and the beauty of nature. It's really a living echo, a living reflection of Ochosi's ashe in the forest, etc. Okay, we can move on to the next slide, please. And so we're talking about the spiritual bath, the practice of a spiritual bath this evening. Water is magnificent. It is really amazing. It's constantly transformed from our tears to the rain to a cup of tea to the vast ocean to the dew that sits on top of plants and flowers. Water is consistently transforming and consistently interacting with us and through us. We are the water, and the water is us. And we hold the memory and frequency in the same way that water does. The space of memory where our ancestors reside, from the womb to the maternal lineage to the moon. We'll talk about the Orisha Yemaya and how she rules the waters of the ocean and as well as the waters of our bodies. I'm wondering if folks have heard of Dr. Emoto, and there's a project that he did with water where he had 2 cups of different, well, I'm definitely gonna be butchering it, but I'm gonna give you the gist of it. So he had 2 cups of water, 1 cup of water where folks were speaking affirmations and speaking in loving tones, telling the water how beautiful it is, how wonderful it is. And there was another cup of water where they were just putting it down, speaking harshly to it, yelling at it, um, just giving it the opposite energy than the other cup of water. And when they froze those cups of water and then put those pieces of ice under a microscope, they realized that the water that was spoken to in a loving way had really beautiful formations, really was harmonious. And the water that was spoken harshly to kind of looked jacked up, it wasn't really didn't have a lot of consistent patterns with it. It was very jagged, very harsh lines, And he really used that practice as a representation of the ways that we speak to ourselves, the ways that we speak to the waters of our bodies, the ways that we, receive and hold the waters within us, and how to be speaking more lovingly, mindfully, to preserve that continuity and lovingness. The water spirits in our lineage are feminine, but they are definitely warriors. To be like water is to be constantly shape shifting, to be expanding, to be contracting, to flow, and to constantly be in motion. This practice of spiritual baths is allowing us, it helps us to remind ourselves of our divinity, of your ashe, and the strength of your word. I realized that I didn't read the slide because I was hyped to talk about Dr. Emoto, but talk about spiritual bath real quick. So, a spiritual bath in the context of many folk and traditional and esoteric practices is a ritual cleansing that uses water infused with herbs, flowers, essential oils, and other ingredients to purify the body's energetic fields, your aura, and your spirit. This is not a regular bath for physical hygiene, but instead it is a sacred act with focused, precise intention. Can you go to the next slide, please? And as I mentioned before, the element of water is the element of emotion, of intuition, and of the subconscious. It is associated with the feminine energy, with fluidity, and with the ability to hold and carry information in both a physical sense as well as an energetic sense. And so now we're going to talk about different bodies of water, different types of water that we can work with, and the type of ashe that they carry, the type of energy that they carry for specific types of spiritual baths. And this is just extra information for a lot of us. I also live in a city. You could use that tap water. It is just fine. It is, again, as I mentioned, the way that we lovingly speak our intentions and prayers over this water. But again, these specific bodies of water hold specific energies. So we'll start with ocean water. Ocean water is associated with the Great Mother, with the infinite and subconscious mind. It holds immense power for deep cleansing, spiritual rebirth, and abundance. The ocean's salt content is believed to be one of the most powerful purifiers that can naturally dissolve even the most stubborn negative energy that we're working through. When used in a baño, it's used for powerful purification baths to remove heavy energy, curses, hexes, deep-seated spiritual negativity. And like everything, there's always a shadow and a light side. So as it removes these hexes and deep-seated spiritual negativities, it can also be used for abundance baths and to attract prosperity and new opportunities. River water symbolizes constant flow, constant change, constant momentum. The river is a living, moving energy that is used to unblock stagnant situations and to help a person's life move forward. It represents the journey of life, carrying away old energy and bringing in new. In spiritual baths, river water can be used for an unblocking bath to clear the path for a person's life, whether that is for career opportunities or relationships. Many folks work with river water for fertility work as well, as it holds the ashe of the Orisha Oshun. The river is also used in rituals for progress and to help a person move on from a difficult past. It's a beautiful water to connect with when you're moving through thresholds. Um, you know, If you're moving from, like I said, a relationship that has passed, even a grieving of an old version of yourself, it helps us to, as I said, move forward, be constantly in motion. Let me go to the next slide, please. Lake water represents tranquility, depth, and reflection. Unlike the dynamic energy of the river or the ocean, a lake is known to be very calm and still, symbolizing emotional balance and inner peace. It holds the power of introspection and stillness. When used as with a baño, it's ideal for calming baths, baths that help us to soothe emotional turmoil, reduce anxiety, and to promote inner peace. It's used in rituals for meditation and to bring a sense of stability and emotional clarity. Rainwater is seen as a gift from the heavens. Many of us will go outside and collect rainwater because we know how powerful this water can be. We believe that it is a direct link between the sky and earth. It's considered to be spiritually pure, spiritually blessed, and extremely powerful. Rainwater holds the energy of renewal, new beginnings, and celestial blessings. When we use rainwater in a baño, it's most often used for blessing baths, baths that are going to bring new positive energy into someone's life. It is also a fundamental component of ritual water used to anoint sacred objects or things that reside on your altar, or tools that you work with for spiritual work. And that is due to its pure and unfiltered energy. Whether you're using it as these waters as a spiritual bath or foot wash or hand washes, the significance of the water is a reflection of the energy you're calling in. Let me move to the next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move quickly on how to prepare a spiritual bath. I know that there are many lineages that have different practices that they prefer, but something I love about a spiritual bath is that anybody can make one. You can make a spiritual bath for yourself. You don't have to necessarily go to an initiated person or an elder. Yes, there are baths that we do need to go seek out these support systems for. But for the most part, if you're doing an energetic tune-up, if you're wanting to move things forward in your life, if you're wanting to clear energy, if you're wanting to call in specific energy, you can do this at home, even with the herbs in your cabinet, and the herbs in your fridge, at the herbs from the supermarket. Like, this is a beautiful technology that is deeply accessible to anyone and everyone. A spiritual bath is a spiritual cleanse, and I consider this spiritual hygiene, spiritual maintenance. Like your body, your spiritual energy collects dirt and spiritual residue. This might be from the person you exist next to. This can be from doing client work or doing service-based work, customer service, or I believe all service-based work, we really are sometimes collecting residue. Or from Mara de Ojo, the things that we can't see that people might be seeing that we maybe don't want them to see. Sometimes the things that we don't even see with our own eyes, sometimes it is deeply, in the subconscious as well. So how do you know if it's time for a baño, if you need a baño? Some signs are you're consistently feeling tired, even after a full night's rest. You're feeling emotionally and physically drained. You might be getting sick often. You have a sense of heaviness in your body. You might feel a pit in your belly or tightness in your physical body that's very consistent and persistent. You might be experiencing streaks of bad luck, having consistent money issues, You may be experiencing insomnia, nightmares, night terrors, things of that sort. So, when we're preparing our spiritual bath, I like to set up a white cloth as if I'm setting up an ancestral altar, because you kind of, from my practice, we kind of are when we're making a spiritual bath. You want to set up a table with a white cloth, a white candle, a cup of water to call in your benevolent and elevated ancestors. We're going to be asking them for support on the journey, for clearing, for cleansing, for attraction, for abundance, things of that sort. You want to make sure that you have the candle lit at all times. From the moment that you set that table up, you have your glass of water, you light an incense or a smudge or, something that's going to call in a sacred smoke, and you light that candle. And you make sure that it's lit all times, because this is acting as a light for your benevolent and elevated ancestors to come and support you in this work. It calls them in closer. So you have a pot or a big bowl filled with water. I'm going to talk about doing this with fresh herbs first, and then we'll go into dry herbs. I'm from the school of fresh herbs being, you're plucking them off the tree, or you're getting them from the botanica or from the grocery store. They still have all of their ashe. They're still living. They're still, expressing in a specific way. So it is, when you are able to, it is really lovely to be able to work with fresh plants. So you take your pot of water, you take your fresh herbs, and what you do, if you see in this picture, the hands of this person are, you know, organizing these herbs, and then you see the bowl in front of her where it looks like the water is dark green and there's like little flecks of herbs in the water. That's what you want to go for. You're gonna take the fresh herbs in your water and begin to macerate the herbs, like rubbing them between your hands, ripping the leaves apart. I think of when I was a kid and I was in my grandma's garden, like making little brews. I was like making the water green and like, oh, now I'm gonna make the water purple with those flowers. Like, you want to get back into that energy. Again, really like allowing the volatile oils, the chlorophyll, all of the plant ashe to really infuse into the water through your hands, through the action of pulling and rubbing. Um, as you prepare your baño, you are praying into the water, whether there are prayers that you recite because that's how you feel called to, or you are literally speaking blessings, or, asking this water, these plants, to remove specific energies, to clear specific energies, or to call in specific energies. It is really beneficial to say these things out loud. As I mentioned, that study from Dr. Emoto, speaking into the water, it's really receiving our words, it's really receiving our vibrations. So consider that time of macerating and, breaking apart the herbs as this moment for deep prayer, deep intention setting. And of course, as we're doing that with our lit candle, we're asking our ancestors and our higher selves to support us through this journey. Asking again the waters and the herbs to wash away any heavy energy, stagnation, false beliefs, and of course, remembering to ask these energies to help us with the things that we cannot see, the things that we're not yet aware of, asking them to look out and support us in those ways as well. When I'm doing a bitter bath, will say, I release all negative energy, seen and unseen. If you're doing a bitter bath, which is the first line of defense when you're doing your first spiritual hygiene um, technique, you're going to do a bitter bath. You want to keep all the herbs bitter. You don't, if you're going to be using ruda and, basil and sage, please don't throw rose petals in there because it's going to confuse all the energy. The first bath is to release, to clear, to cleanse. So keep it bitter. Even if it's just one bitter herb that you're using, allow that bitter herb to be the bitter bath. When you're done and your water's feeling good and green and really like your prayers feel said, you feel like you've really got it clear, your intention is out there, you want to strain the herbs, And then from there, you begin to add your zhuzh. You add your zhuzh to your infused water. And, whether that is colonias, Florida water, flower essences, cascarilla, gem essences, anything that really, you intuitively feel called to help support this bitter or sweet bath. Traditionally, if we're doing a series of bitter baths, we're doing them from anywhere from 3 to 5 days straight. Um, from my school, that is 3 to 5 days is the minimum for the maximum effect. If you're doing the practice of the bitter bath first, and followed by the sweet bath. I usually do 1 day of a break in between the two, just so I have a moment to reset, create that next banyo for the next 3 to 5 days. Um, some folks like myself, I'll make a batch. Like I'll get a gallon of water, use that gallon of water, and then put my infused banyo back in that gallon and separate it, with 3 to 5 lines, depending on how how I'm feeling, how much intensity, how much bitter bathness do I need? How much things do I need to release? How stagnant am I feeling? That'll determine your 3 to 5 day cycle. So after you take the bitter bath, as I mentioned, taking a break to do the sweet bath, it is important that we do the sweet bath. I've found even at our Botanica, we have both a bitter and sweet bath that's pre-made for folks. We saw out of the bitter bath so fast, and the sweet baths just be sitting on the shelves. And I'm like, y'all, all right, you could clear this energy, but what are you calling in now? Like, now that you've created this space, now that you've, released that stagnation, that tension in your body, what type of frequency are you wanting to call in now? So that's where the sweet baths come into play, thinking about the frequency again, the feeling, the energy that you're wanting to call in. Um, we may not be able to talk much about sweet herbs. I don't think we won't be able to talk about sweet herbs in this class. Hopefully, that'll be something we can talk again about at a later time. But you know, take a moment to, it's not always about removal. Yes, we have moments where we need heavy removals, but please remember to be calling in sweetness upon yourselves, calling in blessings upon yourself. So take that time to refill that space. And as I mentioned, we have versions of these in our studio as well, the Botanica, information, rituals, all of that on the website. um, and I want to say these baths do not work unless we do. Okay, so if you're gonna do this bitter bath and you're gonna remove this heavy energy, this stagnant energy, but you're gonna, fall back into these patterns after the 3 to 5 days, it kind of defeats the purpose. So if you know what you're removing from your space, your energy field, your mind, it really is mind, body, soul practice. You have to physically, actively want to begin to make these changes in order for this bath to really be supportive and act as, this energy clearer, this, support giver, etc. Um, Traditionally, I want to mention that when we make a spiritual bath in my household, when I make a spiritual bath, I'll do this every so often for myself, my husband, my daughter. I save a little bit of it and I do a floor wash in my house as well, so that my home is also, you know we're living in this space. Like your house, as it collects dust, it also collects energetic dust. So traditionally, you start from the furthest point of your house on the left side and begin to mop outwards towards your front door and crossing that threshold of your front door, perhaps taking that, water, whether it's, the baño, a little fabuloso, a little holy water, whatever your, concoction is, you take that water and you throw it out of your house after you've done the floor wash. And that really is the home, like your physical temple, as well as your, the four walls home that you live in. Um, okay, we'll go to the next slide, please. So these are optimal days of the week for baños. I wanted to make sure that we talked about this because this is a question that I receive often. Um, I want to say that, well, we'll talk about that later. Get ahead of myself. So, in Caribbean diasporic traditions across lineages like Lukumi, Espiritismo, Hoodoo, and the broader Afro-Caribbean folk practices, spiritual baths are often aligned with the energetic current of the day. This is tied to planetary forces, the Orisha, and the type of work being done, whether that is a cleansing bath, something for attraction, something for protection, or for elevation. So, Monday is an optimal time for work that connects to emotional cleansing, ancestral connection. Many of us tend to our warriors and our ancestral altars, our bóvedas, on Mondays for this reason. Monday is connected to the planet, well, to the moon. Um, this the spiritual focus is emotion, intuition, and our ancestors. Monday baths are really great for limpiezas that are tied to grief, to sadness, emotional heaviness as well. They can be really helpful for dream work or psychic connecting if you're really wanting to open your, spectrum, I say your connection to the astral realm. Mondays are a great night for those types of head washes or, dream bridging techniques. Monday is a beautiful day to honor our ancestors, as I mentioned, especially with white flowers, with different milks, coconut milk, goat's milk, etc., or a Florida water style blend, which we'll talk about in another class. It's a simple white bath. Tuesdays are optimal for protection, strength, and cutting through energies, whether that is cord cutting or, wanting to get straight to the source of something. Tuesday is a great day because it's ruled by Mars. The spiritual focus is defense, action, and spiritual warfare. Tuesday is a beautiful day for work connecting to removing heavy or hostile energy from the body or the home, for protection work, whether that's reversals or uncrossings, or as I said, cord cuttings. And Tuesdays are beautiful for calling in warrior energy. Tuesday is often connected to the Orisha Ogun. Wednesdays are great for communication, for road opening, and for mental clarity. That's because this day is ruled by Mercury, where the spiritual focus is opening of the roads, clearing of expression and speech, and opening the space for movement. Wednesday is really great for abre camino work, road opening work, work that's tied to business, opening, having a better business work, calling in more abundance into your business. It's great for work around communication, decision making, and for removing confusion or stagnation from our mental space or the spaces around us. Thursdays are optimal for work surrounding expansion, blessings, and prosperity because Thursday is ruled by the planet Jupiter. The spiritual focus here is growth, abundance, and wisdom. Thursday baths support financial flow, opportunity, and expansion. They help us with spiritual blessings and elevation. And also, if you're a person calling in a spiritual teacher or guide, Thursdays are a really great day to open up the energy for that flow, that currents come in. Fridays are optimal for work surrounding love, beauty, and attraction. It's because it's ruled by Venus. The spiritual focus here is love, sensuality, and magnetism. Friday is for self-love, heart healing, romantic work, attraction work, sweetening, beauty rituals, and confidence work. Friday is tied to the Orisha Oshun. Saturday is great for deep cleansing, for karmic works and ancestral works as well. And that's because it's ruled by Saturn. The spiritual focus here is heavy clearing, discipline, and honoring endings. Saturday baths are potent for removing long-standing blockages or spiritual residue, that spiritual buildup, for helping us to break cycles and ancestral burdens. It helps us for calling in protection and for grounding after intense work. In my tradition, Saturday is connected to the Orisha Babaluaye. So this is also beautiful for healing work, for helping folks moving through sickness, illness, dis-ease, etc. Sunday is optimal for work surrounding light, elevation, and blessing of the spirits. This is ruled by the sun. The spiritual focus here is vitality, alignment, and radiance. Sunday is optimal for work surrounding spiritual elevation and clarity, not of our ancestors only, but really of ourselves, our spiritual elevation, our spiritual clarity. Sunday is great for recharging your energy fields, for calling in joy, for calling in your purpose, and for calling in greater alignment into your life. Personally, when I'm doing, I tend to do spiritual baths at least monthly, especially because I do a lot of service-based work, a lot of forward-facing work in this way. But Sunday is the day that I prepare my baño for the week. I really like to sit and, you know, take time for myself. Monday, as I said, is for the warriors, it's for my ancestors. Sunday is really mentally, emotionally, and spiritually setting myself up for the week. So whether that is a week of bitter baths followed by sweet baths, or it's the week where I'm doing head washes or foot washes. We didn't talk about hand washes, but there are specific hand washes you can do to call in money, to call in love, to call in, a greater way of expression and creating, putting things out into the world. Um, so that's my personal practice, but I really love, I do often try to connect, the days with specific works, especially when I'm working with clients, for those who are practitioners or healers in the space, um, which, we won't be able to dive into a whole lot today, but we will throughout the school, throughout our time together, throughout the year. Um, we'll go to the next slide, which I'm pretty sure is Q&A. I want to make sure we have time for any. I know I moved a little bit fast this time. I wanted to really honor everyone's time this evening, as I said. Um, so again, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or you're welcome to type in the chat or anything you'd like to share. Like, I love these spaces to also be knowledge sharing. I know many folks in here are practitioners themselves. So maybe there are some practices or days of the week that you like to do specific works. I'd love to hear about that as well if you're open to sharing.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I make a self-love bath. So I do Reiki and I have a business and I make a self-love bath. I make it with hibiscus and rose and lavender. I infuse it and let it sit for a few days. So I only, make enough for maybe like 2 baths, but I do it myself. I usually do it Friday. My love rituals on Fridays. I light a candle, I soak for like 20 minutes. But if I'm selling to the client, now that I know that you're supposed to do these baths at least 3 days, I'm thinking I need to change the quantity that I'm selling. So it's really good information. It's good to know because I don't want to give them wrong information and say, oh yeah, just soak in this and just, I tell them to set an intention. But if it should be longer than just one bath,
Mhm.
um, that's good information. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I want to suggest also sometimes, like, even if you go to the Botanica, their bottles are often sold smaller, but because it's a concentrate. So you can suggest to your clients that maybe you have 8 to 12 ounce bottle or jar that you're, preparing your baño in, but offers, maybe a suggestion of adding this to a gallon of water, suggest maybe that they want to add their own Florida water or holy water, or, as I mentioned, anything that's gonna judge their water, help them to feel more connected. But considering that as maybe a concentrate or like something as a base where they can add more water and decide, is this something that you feel, and you can help them decide if it's something they want to do for 3 days or something they feel they can do for 5 days. Um, just a thought, but I just wanted to share that.
That's really good advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question. What is zhuzh and how do you spell that?
Shush. I don't even know who told me that word. I don't know how to spell it, but when I type it in a text, I usually spell it Zshu, Zshu. And make it a little fancy. So I don't know. What would the real word be for that? I guess to like dress it up,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah. Oh,
Destiny.
I mean,
See your hand up. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Angela.
Oh,
We'll get to you next. Go ahead, Destiny. I'm sorry.
don't worry. Super quick. So if you don't have like say a bath, like I have like a standalone shower, how would you
Mhm.
recommend to do a baño in that way? Like should I get like a kind of almost like a kind of ye old tub or I can do that like in the shower?
You can do it in the shower. I actually like to do it the shower way. Like if you have a bath that you can soak in your spiritual bath like a bag of tea, like I think that's wonderful. But even with a bath, I love to do a stand-up sort of baño. And what I do is I'll take like I have a big pot that we call it the macumba pot in my house. It's like the pot. And then I have like a smaller gourd. Some folks will use a smaller cup, and you can just like put it over your body. And traditionally we'll do the shoulder, your head, your shoulder, the shoulder, the head, your shoulder until you've moved through that the amount of water that you have prepared for your
Right.
bath. Some people just will dump it over their heads, but you also want to be visualizing like a gold light. Like this baño is really full of light, whether it's gold light, white light, blue light, green light, whatever color feels really connected to the work, that hand. Visualizing that in the cup of water as you're pouring it over your body, allowing it to really just move over you, through you. And traditionally, we don't rinse that water off. So you want to take your regular shower first and then do your spiritual bath, allow yourself to air dry, and then, move on with your evening as your routine calls.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Angela.
yeah, real quick. So I was
Mhm.
curious as to so you don't boil the herbs, right? Because that was something that I thought, right? Oh, you and then you wait for it to cool off and then
Mhm.
you can, zhuzh it and do whatever. But from what I'm learning tonight, you didn't say anything about
Yeah, well,
boiling.
this is just one way of making a baño.
Oh,
Um, this is just I was sharing from the fresh herb perspective,
mhm.
but yes, I definitely also use dried herbs in my bath where I'm steeping it as a tea, where you're, allowing it to simmer. And maybe, of course, you're not going to have your hands in it when it's hot, like, doing that. But after you let it cool, as you're zhuzhing, as you're dressing it up, that's when you take a moment to put your hands in the water, to speak your blessings into the water. And whether, I know even in our botanica, we sell dried herb baths. And we usually offer like a muslin bag, so sort of, act as if it's a tea. But if you've got basil in your house, in your cabinet right now, and you're like, I could use a bath that's gonna help me open my roads and to like, clear the obstacles. Use that basil from your cabinet, please, and boil that water, let it cool down. And just like you said, Angela, like, then having that process of pouring it over your head. But yes, we just had limited amount of time today, but that is another potent, beautiful way to perform a spiritual bath.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Vanessa had her hand up. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Go right ahead, Vanessa. Oh, you're still muted.
Here I am talking to myself. Hi.
Hi.
So usually I'm called to do like more like I'll do a cleansing like once a week, maybe perhaps with like salt. Is it a good idea to mix the plants or just have the plants itself separated from the salt?
You mean like you use like a Himalayan salt or like a
Like let's
salt
say
bath?
Himalayan salt or like a sea salt. I guess now
Hmm.
that I'm noticing the different bodies of water, I'm guessing it's because like to mimic the ocean. Because I like to
Yeah.
meditate in the tub with like the salt.
Okay.
But is it good to kind of like if I'm doing like let's say the herbs like a spiritual bath, is it good to kind of separate the salt with the herbs?
I I have definitely added salt to my spiritual baths before, especially if I feel like I'm needing some deep purifying energy. It seems like you feel really connected to the ocean, to like salt water, but
Yeah.
salt bodies of water that are salt
Yeah.
water. You know what I
Now
mean?
that I'm seeing the different properties of the water, but I was like, oh, that's probably why I do the salt.
Yeah, no, I think that even if you're preparing the bath, whether it's a fresh bath or, with the dried herbs, you can add the salt afterwards. Or if you're doing it in your bath, like if you're soaking in that way, like an Epsom salt bath or something,
Yeah.
pour some of that, spiritual bath water into the salt water that you've created. And you can allow yourself to steep in there, sit in there, allow it to do everything you've been doing, just adding some
A
herbs
little,
to that.
okay.
Yeah, a
All
little. Okay, Emma.
Hi, thanks so much, Lindsay, for the presentation. It was really great. I just wanted to get some more clarification on the hand washing that you mentioned for a bit. Is that simply just like saying affirmations as you're washing your hands, or are we like also using herbs to wash our hands? Because it seems like a nice way to if I don't have like the huge time commitment of doing a full banyo, washing hands seems like a nice thing that I can do a bit more regularly.
Yeah. And yeah, it is definitely something that we do with herbs. The way I was taught, I'll share like a traction, like a monetary traction, like abundance, calling it abundance with your hand washes. You use something like basil and you use whether it again is a dried herb bath where you're like taking that um water that's been steeped in basil. You can wash your hands with that and speaking prayers, calling in abundance. Um, or if you're using the actual plant, like washing your hands with the plant, using again, whether we're using tap water, we're using river water, we're using, whatever rainwater, but you are literally, quite literally speaking affirmations and prayers. Some folks will sing, there's different ways that folks are falling in that specific frequency. But yes, you are for sure just washing your hands with whether the infused water or the actual plants. There's a lot more to it, but that's the gist of it, I guess.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Mel.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
Okay, so I know that you touched on just a second ago regarding adding salt and stuff, and I know what you can add, but is there anything that you would advise not adding that wouldn't be, I guess, helpful or that would cause any type of interaction with what your intentions that you're setting, or that would you have any advice on that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is specific to the individual, the type of work that you're wanting to do, the work at hand. But what I will say is something I mentioned before is if you're doing a bath that is for clearing, cleansing, removing, it's important that you keep all of those herbs bitter, or herbs that are going to be helping you to clear and cleanse. Um, it kind of it doesn't really, I don't want to say it like cancels it out, but traditionally, you're not going to be adding flowers to a bitter bath. You're not going to be adding, sweetening herbs to a bitter bath. You want to keep it as such. And similarly to when you're doing a white bath, if you're doing a white bath for
calling in purity, or you're doing a head wash, you're probably not going to be adding, bitter plants to that particular bath either. So you want to think about the energy of the plants that you're working with when creating these baños or, spiritual workings.
So what about like oils? Things in that nature. Or is there specific oils that you're supposed to use? Again, going based off of what you're saying about making sure bitters stay with bitters, like
Mhm.
about oils.
Yeah, so if you want to add oils, let's say for bitters, there are like some uncrossing oils. I don't work with bitters, oils often. I tend to use oils more for like candle work in my personal practice. Um, but again, I know when you go into a botanica, there are hella oils you can choose from, but there are like hex breaking oils, uncrossing oils, um, or oils that are really for like despojos, like clearing, energetic clearing. So making sure that those are in alignment with the type of bath that you're doing as well. And same goes for sweetening. There may be a specific type of sweetening that you're wanting to call in, whether it is self-love or calm, like a calm mind, peace and harmony. So finding oils that are going to be resonant with the energy that you're wanting to receive, or you know opposite to remove.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Nicole.
Hi, thank you so much for this. I was wondering about showering, well, pouring it over your head versus soaking in a tub. I know you said you could do either and you like, the shower version. Do you think that, like, I was thinking, okay, if you pour it, maybe that might be better for like the spojos or that kind of bath versus soaking for like bringing in blessings, or does it matter? Or what are your thoughts?
I feel like it really is contingent on the person, the type of energy they're wanting to be in. Um, the reason I do the standing bath is just that was the way I was taught. And I also had a shower space. That's what I was working with for a long time. So it's been a part of my practice. But sometimes I think, especially when you do have access to a tub, if you're doing a self-love ritual or a sweetening bath that's calling in, peace, tranquility, harmony, like it may be really nice to be able to sit in a bathtub and soak and maybe add some coconut milk to your bath, add some rose petals to your bath. So really, again, the intention is that you're calling in the specific frequency and energy that you're wanting to attract or magnetize. So when it does feel, aligned to sit in a bath and to be able to have that meditative experience, I think it's really beautiful. You can totally, of course, do a cord cutting bath or a clearing bath in the same way. It really is about the mindset, the intention, and the tools that we're using in that time.
Yes, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I couldn't uplift some of the questions in the chat. Should we air dry our hands when doing hand washes?
Yeah.
You mentioned some, but there was a question about some more sweetening herbs that you'd recommend for sweetening sweet baths.
Yeah. I love to work with flowers personally. I think flowers hold a really beautiful vibrational energy. Of course, we know roses are beautiful for love, calling in self-love, calling in that like heart frequency. Um, Chamomile is really beautiful for calling in tranquility, harmony, lavender as well. Um, some herbs, so if you're not gonna like feel connected to specific flowers, peppermint is a really beautiful plant to. I want to preface this. I want to say that every plant has a light and a dark side, a shadow and a light side. There are some plants like Rula that we use mostly for their clearing properties. We really call on their shadow aspects. And then there's plants like peppermint, where we call on for its light properties, where it can clear, but it helps us to really like with that clearing, it helps to fortify a pure mind, a clear mind, like helps us to feel more less anxious, more calm. But then there are plants like basil, which I talk a lot about. Basil is equally carries a lot of shadow and also carries a lot of light. Basil we use for road opening experiences because it's going to help to clear the obstacles, but it's also going to clear this path for us to receive and call in the things that we're wanting to. Um, you know, I think if we're going back to flowers, if you're in Trader Joe's and you're like, damn, I don't know what this flower is, but I'm so attracted to it. I feel so connected to it. It smells so good. The color is so beautiful. Maybe that's a plant that you take home with you to do a sweetening bath, um, to call in high vibrational energy. Maybe sometimes, in my experience, I've connected with plants based off the vibe and then learned later on, like, oh shit, this plant was really helping me to feel more calm, to feel more mentally clear. So trust your instinct. I think our intuition is really giving us a lot more information that we give it credit for. Sometimes, we want to whip out the chat GPT, the plant identifier, and yes, when the moment calls, yes, but trust your intuition. And if these plants are talking to you, you're feeling connected to them, you know, feel into that a bit more.
Can you answer how big of a batch you make for one bath?
Well, there's not like a recipe that's like, it's gonna be 3 tablespoons of this and a cup of that. It's sort of like, when you're cooking and you're like, oop, it needs a little bit more salt, but you never tasted it. Like, oop, I'm gonna add a little bit of cinnamon to this. But it's sort of that energy, like feeling really in tune with the matter at hand. If you're doing a clearing bath and you're like, this little cup of water ain't gonna do nothing, I'm gonna need that gallon, go for the gallon. But again, this is just my perspective, accumulation of the things that I was taught and these experiences that I've had. You could do one baño for yourself and feel that you got exactly what you needed. And that's really what matters. It's really about I like a little bit of a blend of tradition and a blend of what's happening in the moment and using what we got to do what we can.
Do you have a book or will you ever write one?
I am working on a book. Um, if you can connect to my Substack. I have a lot of writings on there right now about Orisha cosmology, herbal astrology, and rituals and ways that you can connect with plants for different types of workings. But it's coming, maybe after the school. The school is really the focus right now. I'm gonna take like 2 more questions because again, I want to respect everyone's time. And I'm a little bit ahead of time here in Brazil, so it's your girl's bedtime almost.
I think we're good in terms of the chat.
Yeah.
What school did you go to for herbalism?
I studied with Arbor Vitae. I studied with the People's Medicine School. I studied with Sacred Vibes with Empress Karen Rose. I studied with David Winston for clinical herbalism. Um, I've been doing this since I was 19. I'm almost 40, so it's been a lot of a lot of schooling. And I'm currently living in Brazil right now to be closer to our spiritual elite. So I'm learning more spiritual herbalism through the path of Candomblé. So yeah, but those more formal certification-based schools, Arbor Vitae, People's Medicine School is amazing. It's an amazing experience. And of course, I can't say more wonderful things about Empress Karen Rose. She really is a blessing to so many of us.
And I also want to uplift Margarita for sharing a PDF to the healing power of water. I'm going to repost it just in case people can't find it or it got lost in the chat, but I'll repost it again so
Love
everybody
to.
can get that.
And I do want to say that, this is, as I've mentioned through the emails and the school and the Instagram posts and everything, these free programs are sort of, a peek into what we'll be doing throughout our year together for the School of Remembrance. But it's really also an access point for folks who are feeling curious and feeling called to ancestral practices, indigenous practices. Right now, I really believe that there's there has not been, it's the maybe word what I'm saying. My brain is moving faster than my mouth can. We've been moving through so much shit for so long, like we've really all been going through so much, but there's a particular kind of energy that's happening right now where I really believe that these spiritual tools, these spiritual practices are really fundamental for helping us ground into who we are, to help us remember ourselves, remember our roots, and to stay really tethered to ourselves, stay tethered to our families, to our communities. And so that's the reason that these classes are coming out at this moment, and why the school is, happening at this moment. As I mentioned, it's a year-long training for practitioners and emerging healers and practitioners to connect more to diasporic technologies, practices, rituals, medicines, songs, herbs, the cosmologies, the mythologies, all the things that our ancestors really relied heavily upon. And, we talk about Sankofa a lot, going back and fetching it, going back and understanding these practices so that we can be more embodied in ourselves. For so many of us, we've experienced so much fragmentation, specifically around spirituality. So this is, being created as a prayer and intention for us to really call back those pieces of ourselves to really, you know, be our most whole selves, because that's really what these times are calling for. So I hope that this was helpful for those who have participated today. Yeah, and I
Can,
appreciate you.
can I uplift one more question?
Yeah,
Is
of
that okay?
course.
Can the days in between a bitter and sweet bath be more than one day? For example, if I did a bitter bath, then 2 weeks later did a sweet bath, would that be okay?
I would cut that 2 weeks shorter. Give it at least no more than a week. You want to really allow yourself to, you know, I know we got shit to do, but this is your this is what we should be worrying about in this moment right now. So um yeah, I'm not saying that after a bitter bath you out open in the world, like, receiving, but you want to be intentional about, a sweetening bath is not just about calling in your next boo, calling in your next job. A sweetening bath is really helping us to call in a specific tone and frequency, mindset, energetic shield, that we want to be moving through in the world. So I would not go as long as 2 weeks. I would try, and maybe it's not a day, maybe it's 3 to 5, maybe it's 1 week, but I would try and keep that time in between as short as possible, if possible.
That's all we got in the chat.
All right. All right, y'all. Well, again, thank you so much for spending the time this evening. It is much appreciated. I'll be sending a follow-up email in the next few days with the video, notes, more information about the school. And if you have any questions before then, feel free to shoot me an email. All right.
Thank
Happy Earth Day, y'all. Happy Wednesday.
you.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Dolores. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're so welcome anytime. I was gonna say, anytime you need it, I'm happy to support.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.